The liberal comedian thought making fun of an 18-year-old's height would get easy laughs. Barron Trump is like a giraffe, but less graceful, he joked on stage. But when Donald Trump Jr. heard about it, his response was about to end this comedian's career forever. Make sure you watch this whole video and subscribe. We bring you the moments when family loyalty meets liberal bullying and justice gets served. It was supposed to be just another night at the Comedy Cellar in New York. Liberal comedian Jake Stevens was doing his usual anti-Trump material to a crowd of Manhattan elites who loved hearing their political views validated through humor. Stevens, 34, had built his entire career on Trump jokes. Not particularly funny ones, but in New York, you didn't need to be funny, you just needed to hate the right people. He'd gotten some TV appearances, a few late-night spots, and thought he was heading for the big time. That night, Stevens decided to go after new material. The Trump kids had always been off limits for most comedians. There's an unwritten rule about leaving family members alone, especially younger ones. But Stevens was desperate for viral content. "You guys see Barron Trump lately?" Stevens started, getting some uncomfortable chuckles. "Kid's like 18 now and he's taller than the Empire State Building." The crowd laughed nervously. This felt different. "I mean, seriously, Barron Trump is like a giraffe, but less graceful. Kid's so tall and awkward, he probably has to duck under his own thoughts." Bigger laughs now. The audience was warming up to the family attacks. What Stevens didn't realize was that someone in the audience was recording. And what he really didn't know was how that video was about to change his life forever. Within hours, clips of Stevens' routine were all over social media. The jokes about Barron were getting shared, commented on, and sparking debates across Twitter. Most people were not amused. Imagine making fun of an 18-year-old's appearance for laughs. "This isn't comedy, it's bullying. Leave the kids alone, you coward." But Stevens was loving the attention. He doubled down on Twitter. "Truth hurts. Comedy is supposed to make people uncomfortable. Barron Trump is fair game. He's 18 and part of a political family." He kept posting, "Maybe if Daddy Trump wasn't such a terrible person, people wouldn't make fun of his giant son." Stevens thought he was winning. His follower count was going up. Liberal blogs were praising his brave comedy, and he was getting interview requests. What he didn't see coming was the Trump family response. Donald Trump Jr. was at his office when his assistant showed him the video. At first, he watched quietly. Then his jaw tightened. Don Jr. had always been protective of his siblings, but especially Barron. The kid had grown up in the spotlight through no choice of his own, handled it with grace, and stayed out of politics completely. "This guy's making fun of my little brother's height?" Don Jr. said to his assistant. "Really? That's what passes for comedy now?" Don Jr. immediately called his father. "Dad, you see this comedian making fun of Barron?" "I saw it," Trump replied. "Kid's a nobody trying to make a name for himself. Ignore him." "Nah, Dad, nobody talks about Barron like that. This guy crossed a line." Don Jr. hung up and started making calls. To his business contacts, his media friends, his entertainment industry connections, people who knew how the game really worked. "Let me ask you something," Don Jr. said to a comedy club owner he knew. "You ever book comedians who make fun of kids? Because I'm hearing about this Jake Stevens guy." Word traveled fast in the comedy world. Don Jr. wasn't making threats. He didn't need to. He was just asking questions, having conversations, letting people know he was paying attention. Comedy club owners started getting calls from their boards, their investors, their sponsors. "Hey, just checking, you're not planning to book that Stevens guy who makes fun of teenagers, are you?" Network executives got similar calls. "Don, we loved your last appearance on our show. By the way, we saw that comedian attacking your family. That's not really our brand." Talent agents heard from their biggest clients. "Just wanted you to know, anyone who books Jake Stevens probably won't be booking me anymore." Stevens was oblivious. He was still riding high on his viral moment, booking more shows, planning his big breakthrough special. He had no idea his career was already over. 3 days after the original video, Stevens got his first cancellation. The Comedy Store in LA called, "Hey Jake, we're going to pass on next week's shows." Nothing personal, just scheduling conflicts. Then the Laugh Factory called, "Yeah, we're restructuring our lineup. Maybe next time." Stevens wasn't worried yet. Cancellations happened. But then his manager called. Jake, we need to talk. I'm getting pushback on your bookings. A lot of pushback. What kind of pushback? The kind where venue owners are getting calls from people with real money asking why they're giving platforms to comedians who bully kids. Steven started to panic. Who's calling them? Let's just say people with more influence than you have followers. That's when Stevens realized he might have picked the wrong fight. A week after the original video, Don Jr. decided to address it publicly, not through an angry tweet or a rant. That's what Stevens expected. Instead, he gave a calm, measured interview to a friendly podcast. You know, I usually don't respond to attacks on my family, Don Jr. said. My father taught us to ignore the noise, but there's something different about attacking an 18-year-old kid who's never hurt anybody. The host asked if he was angry. Angry? No, disappointed. Absolutely. You've got a grown man making fun of a teenager's appearance for laughs. That's not comedy, that's bullying. Don Jr. leaned back in his chair. And here's the thing about bullies. They only pick on people they think can't fight back. This comedian thought he could attack my little brother because Barron doesn't engage in politics, doesn't have a platform to defend himself. So what's your response? Don Jr. smiled slightly. My response is simple. Actions have consequences. You want to build your career on bullying kids? Fine, but don't expect the rest of us to support that career. The interview clip went viral immediately. Stevens watched the interview and knew he was in trouble. This wasn't just about comedy anymore. This was about respect, family, and consequences. He tried to fight back on Twitter. Don Jr. is trying to cancel me for telling jokes. This is what fascism looks like. But the response was immediate and brutal. Fascism is making fun of teenagers for their height. You can dish it out but can't take it? Maybe don't attack kids if you can't handle the heat. Stevens' upcoming shows started getting canceled one by one. Not because of organized boycotts or protests, just because venue owners didn't want the headache. His agent dropped him. Jake, I can't book you anywhere. Nobody wants to touch this. His publicist quit. I'm sorry, but this isn't the kind of client I represent. Even liberal media outlets that had initially supported him started backing away. Perhaps targeting family members crosses a line, wrote one entertainment blogger. 2 weeks after Don Jr.'s interview, Stevens was desperate. His career was collapsing, his bookings were gone, and he was running out of money. He decided to do a podcast interview to try to save his career. This whole thing is ridiculous, Stevens complained. I made a joke about a tall kid, and now I'm being destroyed by the Trump machine. The host pressed him. But don't you think there's a difference between political comedy and personal attacks on family members? It's all fair game. If you're in politics, your family is in politics. But Barron Trump isn't in politics. He's just a college student. Stevens lost it. I don't care. The whole family deserves whatever they get. That clip went viral too, but not in the way Stevens wanted. Don Jr. saw the podcast clip and decided it was time to finish this. He posted a simple video on social media. Just saw this comedian doubling down on attacking my little brother. Says my family deserves whatever we get, including an 18-year-old kid who's never said a word about politics. Don Jr. looked directly into the camera. Let me be clear about something. Barron is off limits. He's a good kid, he's respectful, he's smart, and he doesn't deserve to be anyone's punchline. But if you think you can build your career on bullying my family, you're going to find out what real consequences look like. The video got 10 million views in 24 hours. Stevens' remaining defenders abandoned him after the second viral clip. Even liberal comedians started distancing themselves. Maybe he went too far. His last few bookings were canceled. His social media following started dropping. Entertainment industry contacts stopped returning his calls. 6 months later, Stevens was working at a coffee shop in Brooklyn, his comedy career completely over. He'd tried to restart, tried different material, tried apologizing. Nothing worked. The comedy world had decided attacking kids was off limits, and Stevens had learned that lesson the hard way. Meanwhile, Barron Trump continued his college studies, completely unbothered by the whole situation. Don Jr. had handled the problem without Barron ever having to respond. The message was clear: mess with one Trump, you mess with all of them. And when the family sticks together, bullies don't stand a chance. If you enjoyed watching family loyalty triumph over liberal bullying, Hit that like button and subscribe for more stories about real consequences for bad behavior.